Hey everybody, uh, Doug here from Lambda Labs. Really happy to be here to run this workshop. But I want to take us back to who Lambda is and share this wonderful photo of why we're all here today. Um, Lambda is a GPU cloud, and what you'll see if you're here in the wonderful Bay Area as you're crossing into SF is our big old billboard greeting you as you cross over the bridge. Because gpus.com uh, is where Lambda's at. And then moving on to the next portion for why we're here today, which is really to cover and talk through the Berkeley LLM Agents Hackathon and where Lambda can help. And here's a little bit of what we're going to cover. We're going to go through intros. We're going to talk about hackathon resources, specifically our inference endpoint that's available now, GPU credits that are coming soon, and then we will go into Q&A and breakout rooms if necessary. Cool. So I'd like to start with a quick overview of the folks from the Lambda side that are here on this call. I'll talk through who's here on the call, but will be the main one speaking here today. But as you think about questions or things that you're concerned about, um, like please know that we're here to help and we're really excited to interact and work with each and every single one of you. So from left to right, we've got Chuan Lee, our Chief Scientific Officer, Thomas Bordes, our Head of Marketing, Cody Bronstein, our Senior Technical Writer, and myself, your one of the product managers here on the Lambda Labs team. And of course, we also have participants and help from, of course, the core staff, Samantha Guo from RDI and Jason Yan from the core staff. All right, let's go ahead and dive into it. I'd like to first talk about Lambda, who we are, what we offer, and then talk really specifically about what we're providing for this hackathon. So Lambda Labs is the AI developer cloud. We were founded in 2012 by deep learning engineers, Stephen and Michael Balban. And what we offer is a GPU cloud designed for ML teams to train, fine tune, and run inference on AI models. And today we've got hundreds of thousands of customers and users across both our public and private clouds. But what does that mean for you? Well, what that means is that we have three different things that you might be able to use as you're thinking through this hackathon. From left to right, we've got public cloud instances. So these are 1 to 8 GPUs paid hourly, similar to maybe AWS, EC2, GCE, or OCI compute, where you can spin up GPUs in minutes in a public cloud capacity. We've also got public cloud clusters. So what happens if you need more memory, more VRAM than a single GPU node has to offer? And that's what we offer as well. These are 16 to 512 GPUs paid by the week, tightly interconnected. So you can have a supercomputer that you spin up with a single click. And lastly, if you're looking for 1,000 to 16,000 plus GPUs for a year to 3 years, that's dedicated to you, that's our private cloud offer. You know, so wanted to share a little bit of what Lambda offers and then talk through what we are offering during this hackathon. So what we're providing during this hackathon are really two things. We've created a free inference endpoint that we will host throughout the hackathon, and we are offering up to $250 in GPU instances or GPU credits from the midterm onwards for approved teams. We think that we think that the inference endpoint can be really helpful for solving lab problems or doing some experiments, and for things that inference endpoint can't cover, providing the underlying GPU compute can be a good way for you to do specifically what you want to do. So without further ado, I'll talk through how you can get started with the inference endpoint and then talk through how you can get started with the GPU compute. All right. So the first thing that I want to point out is Lambda does also have a Lambda chat product. It's currently in beta. and there are 13 models that you can go ahead and work with. There's 4 directly available through chat, so please, if you're here on the call, just go to your browser, type in lambda.chat, and you'll see what's shown on the left-hand side. And what you'll see on the right-hand side, if you go ahead and click the chat API link, are the 13 models that we have available through the API. Specifically over here, highlighted in blue, is the model or the endpoint that we've set aside for the Berkeley Hackathon. Since this product is in beta, um, since this product is in beta, we've made a commitment that specifically for the Llama 3.1-70B-instruct-Berkeley model, we'll host it free and continue to host it until the end of the hackathon in mid to late December. So once you've navigated to here, I do want to share how you can make use of that free hackathon endpoint and the resources that you do have available to you. Within Discord, join us at #Lambda or DM either Thomas or myself. Uh, you can reach Thomas at thomasb@lambda or Doug P@lambda. And on the left-hand side are the instructions that we've got pinned for how to get access throughout the hackathon with us. First, you've got to create a Lambda account, then add a credit card. Sorry, I know it's a hassle, but it's necessary for tax and fraud. And then work through the documentation for the Lambda chat completions API. And specifically, really important is item 4 over here, which is to use this model that's free to hackathon participants through the entire hackathon. That's Llama 3.1-70B-instruct-Berkeley. All right. Now, if you've got a question of can you actually use this? Well, that's where we've got our technical writing team on here. And what you'll see on the screen actually is our technical documentation walking through Lambda Chat API. What you'll see on there, scrolling from top to bottom, are examples for how to get to the documentation, the different models that we support, quick ways to test whether you're able to access the endpoint with code written in Python, or if you just want to go through terminal and test it out real quick, as well as the output that you should see. So with these steps over here, you'll be able to accomplish 3 things. First, you'll be able to see the models that we have to offer. 2, you'll know whether or not you've successfully been able to create an account and create an API key and call this inference endpoint. I'll pause here to see if there are any questions that pop up from the Q&A. But otherwise, you can also see the documentation by pulling up your phone and looking at the QR code or typing in this URL, tinyurl.com/lambda-chat-API. And then does the key work for other non-Berkeley models? And the answer also is yes. So with your API key, you're able to access all 13 models that we have available through the chat API. And then Ashish, are there limits based on RPM or TPM? I believe that would mean tokens per minute. RPM, a little bit unsure, but I'd say over here, the Berkeley Hackathon is a shared resource. So we've taken the approach of opening this up to everybody here. And what you can expect to see is if everybody starts hammering it real hard, your tokens per minute will go down. And um, and so to answer your question, Ashish, we do not limit how many tokens per minute you're able to get. All right. And then another question over there, couldn't see Llama 3.2 or 90B models in the Lance chat. I think based on the chat API, we do not have 3.2 available yet, but we can certainly go ahead and see if that could come out soon. Couldn't see Llama 3.2, don't believe we offer that. Is the model automatically available for everybody? Yes, the model is automatically available for everybody, but it isn't publicly listed. So the idea here is that only folks who are taking the course would know the model name and be able to access it. And yes, the session is being recorded and will be shared later. So, what's a perspective on adding multimodal models? Great question. So, over here at Lambda, we also know that maybe text tokens aren't enough. Maybe you want to do tool calling. Maybe you want to go multimodal, or maybe you want higher tokens per second, right? And that's why we're also offering GPU credits or cloud credits. What you see here are the different GPU types that Lambda has available today. You can see that they range from, I would say, introductory entry tier RTX 6000s all the way to the latest H100s in both one GPU core, uh, four GPUs, or even eight GPUs, right? And these are available for you to use from 1 to 8 GPUs on an hourly basis. So I think the real question over here is what are we looking for when we're talking about these credits, and how can you go ahead and how do you apply? Well, we're really looking for three things. We're looking at this on the basis of cool ideas. What are you trying to do? Right. Part of what's really exciting and what we're really excited about at Lambda is the ability to work with students, researchers, anybody interested in this field, and to push the boundaries of what we can do with AI. Um, and what we're curious about is why you think it needs more than just text tokens, and whether your team will be able to use it well. So things like being able to say, hey, we're trying to do multimodal that these endpoints don't allow, and where our team knows how to set up our own, I don't know, the LLM endpoint and add multimodal models or do crazy things like that, gives us confidence that if we provide these credits, you'll be able to use it to do something cool. And now let's talk through how to ask for it. Um, there's really two things for what you need to do. And this is really in working with the core staff to come up with it. First, you have to fill out the midpoint check-in. And second, you've got to complete the compute request form. So on this slide, you can see what the Google Forms look like. And on the right-hand side, you've got like the different tiny URLs for the announcement in Discord and the different Google links. This is primarily how we know what you're asking for. Um, and and how we figure out which teams to support with compute as we get further and further along into the hackathon, and think through what we're going to support after the midterm check-in. All right. So over here, I wanted to recap what Lambda's providing. We're going to provide a free inference endpoint throughout the hackathon, $250 in GPU credits from the midterm onwards for approved teams. And really, here are the steps for how to win. Please sign up on lambdalabs.com. You can reach out on Discord for help to either me or Thomas. And of course, happy hacking. Now, I'll pause and mention that we're running Q&A through not Zoom chat, just Slido itself. So if you're new and you've got questions, please go to slido.com and enter the code lambda-berkeley, or join us on mobile with the QR code below. We'll now turn this over to the live Q&A portion of this workshop. And don't worry, Thomas, myself, and Chwan will stay here to answer these questions. All right. I think question from Rustam, can we go over the implementation of LLM agents with Lambda within this workshop? I think let's go through some of the other questions here first. I'd love to understand what specifically you're trying to get at. I think it's going to be a little bit challenging given that I can broadcast but not get details from you. Second, what's the deadline to ask for compute? I think this one over here is where I'll lean on the RDI staff. My understanding is, we're going to wait for the midterm check-in to be complete, and that's going to happen on November 21, and that compute must be requested by that time frame. Is that right, Jason?
Yes, the deadline is the same.
Okay. So to answer that question, deadline to ask for compute is the same as the midterm check-in, so submit both at the same time. All right. Next question. So is the credit 250 in total? What's the max you'd be able to offer? So it's 250 for the team. And of course, me and Thomas are hanging out on Discord. So if you think that there's a reason why you need more, want more, we're also available there. All right. Check next deadline for compute. Check 250 for the team. Approved after midterm. Correct. And then I'm looking to fine tune a voice model and host it. Can we do that through Lambda Labs? Uh, well, with compute, you're certainly able to fine tune it and host it as well. I think that as I think that what we've seen with compute is that whatever with just raw compute, however you want to use it and whatever you want to do with it is up to you. Then over here, how to get the recording for yesterday's session. I think that one's one for Jason. It'll come up, I think, when the teaching team gets to it. What's a perspective on adding multimodal models? I don't think we're going to add multimodal models for the Berkeley endpoint, but what we are offering are GPU credits. So if you do want to set up your own multimodal endpoint, you're able to do so. All right. Then I'll just kind of hang tight, see if any other questions pop up. But otherwise, I'll think of this as office hours and ah, um, since let's go ahead and turn it over to our Chief Scientific Officer, Chuan. Since it looks like we'll have some time to talk through implementing agents with Lambda within this workshop. So, Chuan, I'll go ahead and turn it over to you. Thanks for hopping in.
Yeah, sure. Yes, I guess without too much of context, I guess the usual practice would be you just treat our language endpoint as OpenAI's endpoint alternative, and it's free. So it doesn't matter what kind of framework you use to implement your agents. Could be LangChain, could be something else. You just route the LLM call to our inference endpoint. I think that's how I see one possible way to use our free endpoint to help you develop your agent. Hope that answers your question. On Doc, there's another question regarding does Lambda work like AWS instance? Do we have space of our own code and have files, etc.? My understanding is once the team are approved for use our computer credit, they can spin up a on-demand instance which comes with storage, which you can basically save files. And we
Correct.
also have persistent storage, yes, which means you can basically put your files on the persistent storage and turn the instance off. Then after a while, you launch a new instance and attach the persistent storage to your new instance. So you won't be charged for the compute during the middle.
I think that there are some questions here about whether the GPU instances are capable of running graphical simulations like Isaac Sim.
Oh yeah,
Um,
that's actually interesting. Thanks, Doc. Yeah, yes, I guess. Actually, it's it's probably more beneficial to use instance like A6000 if you are interested in an Isaac Sim. Um, yes, we do have. We can also post a tutorial somewhere in terms of guideline to run Isaac simulations on Lambda Cloud. I'll
yeah,
take a note.
yeah. I think Chuan, I thought we had some Isaac Sim benchmarkings that we did before, right?
Some guidance. Yeah,
Yeah.
we'll post it.
All right. Cool. Good question. Really interested, whoever's asking it, what you're thinking about. All right. New question over here. Are there any example GitHub repos? Man, uh, more details. What kind of GitHub repos you looking for? I think we've got tons of work out there, and if you can add just a little bit more detail, I'm sure we'll be able to help you out. And then where should we start for starting to set up instances? Uh, I think what I'll do then is I'll go ahead and walk through what it takes to create an account on Lambda Labs. I think that's maybe what the person is asking about. So let me go ahead, stop a share. To get started, I've got a new incognito tab open here. Let's go to lambdalabs.com, click launch GPU instance. Uh, let's say I'm Doug, Pan, and then over here I'll add an alias and maybe, oh, all right. Let me go ahead, verify that email. Give me one moment. Ah, sorry guys. Don't think I'll be able to walk through the full flow. Good question about data sets, model checkpoints, delete at instance termination. Chuan, could you handle that one over there?
Yes, as mentioned before, as long as you put everything on the persistent storage, it will be there. It won't be deleted. So I don't know, is there any way we can post a doc? I think we should have some documentation about how to use persistent storage. Let me try to find it.
Yep. All right. Just shared it there. I've shared the link for our documentation for file systems, and over there you'll find ways in which you're able to store data sets and model checkpoints in our persistent storage. If you don't use persistent storage and do use local storage, data on the instance on local or ephemeral storage will be deleted after you terminate. I have a question about how do we make sure we don't go over the dollar, how we don't go over the limit dollar wise, even if we put a CC on there. I think for that one over there, to check on the amount of credits that you do have left, please do reach out to our support, and they'll be able to share your current limit and help you manage spend that way.
I see there's a question regarding, are we able to troubleshoot and fix hallucination with current achievement? Uh, I guess if the question is general, not about our computer, about like the LM agent research in general, I guess um, well, I think first of all, there's a course related to this hackathon, as far as I understand. Maybe there's a lot of um, things we can learn together there. As far as what I think, yes, there are some progress made in reduce LM hallucination, but overall it's still a ongoing challenge. Things like retrieval augmented generation, RLHF, and the prompt engineering, they are sort of low-hanging fruit to deal with this situation. But yes, I guess a lot of things has to be tried out for specific use cases to see whether that works at all. Okay, this is definitely the reason I'm super excited about this hackathon to see what kind of use cases and what kind of method, new creative method we can come up with to address challenges like this.
Yeah, question there about Google Form for a midpoint check-in. So I've dropped the Discord message from Tara that contains both the midterm check-in form and the compute resource request form. All right. Looks like we've got two active questions left. I think Rustem, if you're on the call, I think over here, feel free to add more details in the form of a question for what you mean about going through an implementation of LM agents with Lambda. I think over there, Jason, are you able to handle this one? It looks like from the Discord channel, the Lambda workshop is today 11/12. When is the midterm check-in form due?
Yeah, so the deadline for midterm check-in form is November 20th, I believe.
Okay.
Yeah, and you have to fill in the midterm checking form to get credits. Yeah.
Okay. So to answer Anon, not by day, but you said 11:20, Jason?
Yes.
All right.
Actually, while we are waiting for questions, um, if you have a very specific model you would like us to consider supporting, yeah, please post in the Slido. There's no guarantee we are able to do that, but it's good for us to get some samples of what are the popular models out there you guys want to use.
Oh, that's a great point, Chuan.
Doug, there's a new question into the chat about favorite blog that may have to do with the hackathon.
Ooh. Ooh. I'm a bit removed from that one over there. Any things that you've been reading lately, Chuan, that you think might be cool to share?
To our project, and I wish you could be little bit more specific about like our
Ah,
project and um
Maybe generally about agents and LLM agents.
for this one over here, just say join us at #Lambda on Discord, or DM Thomas or me if you want to chat about this further.
usually I would say I cannot have anything in terms of blogs pop up in my mind, but usually if you go search like awesome LLM agent, usually there's a few like really good GitHub repos give you a collection of the latest and coolest thing. Maybe there's something you can find there. Also, there's tons of talks on YouTube, maybe some YouTube channels you can follow. Yeah, I don't remember any blogs particular these days.
And there's a question here about the cost of using persistent storage. Say just shared what the cost of our persistent storage is, and then as far as being able to answer whether that's similar to Google Colab Pro plus a subscription, I think I'd have to actually look at what Google Colab is charging. But at least I've shared what the cost of our persistent storage is.
Oh, one thing I think, okay, after some thoughts, one thing I would like to quote here uh, is actually something from Berkeley. Berkeley Sky Computing Lab has a camp recently. Those guys working on some really cool project, and some of them are related to LM agents. Quite a few of them. Yeah, maybe we can post it here. There are project like memory GP and MemGPT. There's a VLM, and there's a other some really cool tools around building agents. Those are the good resource, I would say.
So I think I'm sharing this one
Yeah.
over here, 2024 SkyCamp. So I pull it up and then, wow. Uh, so there's a question here about the minimum GPU software. So what we have on our on-demand instances is Lambda Stack. And then so we take care of making sure that PyTorch, CUDA, and Jupyter actually work well all together on the instance that we've got. Um, To be clear, yes, you have access to persistent storage for GPU instances. And as far as limits for the storage, I think for most use cases, we don't have limits. Please let us know if you're thinking about moving petabytes or exabytes of data over, though, because then we might need to chat through how we can make that happen. And the best place to look for information on persistent storage is through our documentation, specifically as it relates to file systems. Is there a GitHub link? Uh, for setting up persistent storage and calling endpoints. I don't think we've got a GitHub link or a demo per se for how to set it up, but I believe our persistent or our technical documentation walks through the process of setting up the storage and calling the endpoints.
Yes, that's right. We do have some documentations. Maybe we should have it written down somewhere, like more officially, not in this Slido channel. One thing I do want to double click in terms of storage is while you spin up a instance, you will be prompted to create your persistent storage. You have to do that. Otherwise, it won't be there by default. You have to create one while you spin up the instance. And that's described in our how-to doc.
Ooh, I see a question in there that might be relevant for Jason and the teaching team, talking through about selecting the problem and some agentic problems to solve in the hackathon.
Yeah, you can check out our Hackathon page for more examples, and you can also message me in Discord.
There's a question about safe and efficient ways to download data from instances to local storage. So sharing in there how to use rsync to copy and synchronize files. So I think given all the questions that we have and details on this, I think after the call, we'll take all the questions and answers that we provided and also drop them into both the Lambda channel as well as Jason, would it be possible to include just the Q&A portion with the output, I don't know, as the tag to some announcement?
Yeah, we can also add that.
Perfect. I think these questions are great. Thank you, people who are watching and submitting these questions. If you accidentally delete your API key, that you'll have to create another one. I don't think we've got the ability to restore it for you.
It will be weird if we stop. It might be
I know.
yeah. Just create a new one, then the new one works.
Okay. Can you point to a very introductory document that goes through the steps of setting up an instance, working with models? Oh, I think we have some of that in the technical documentation, but maybe something I think to discuss internally for whether we could do a abbreviated one. Good question. Similar to Amazon Omni's, does Lambda provide VMs bundled with required LLM software stack? Our VMs are bundled with Lambda stack that comes with versions of PyTorch, TensorFlow, and CUDA that we test. And then whoever shared that wonderful note saying great session, thank you for that note. I'm assuming that's Jason, and happy posting so people can watch after the fact too. If there's still times for a brief hands-on demo, that would be great. I don't think we'll have the time left to do the hands-on demo. However, do reach out to me or Thomas directly on Discord. We're hanging out in the Discord channel, #Lambda, and you'll see me there as well. And to reiterate, the best way to ask Lambda-related questions after today's presentation is to join us on our Discord channel or reach out directly to Doug P with the @Lambda logo or Thomas B as well.